Good morning, everyone, once again. Greetings from Zambia. I hope everyone in the room knows where Zambia is. By show of hands? Okay, that's good, that's good. I think I'm just here to tell a short story. It will be difficult to fill the shoes of the previous speakers. I think they've said it all. But in that light, we're just going to share a few of our perspectives with regards to how we see financial inclusion and obviously how it fits into the whole consumer protection and cybersecurity agenda. I have a short presentation to make. All right, thank you. So, first of all, before I begin, who thinks you need to understand where you're coming from to know where you're going? Is it important to understand where you're coming from? So at the SEC, for that reason, we like to tell stories so that we can remind ourselves of where we were and what we want to anticipate for the future. So basically, this presentation is touching on perspective, like I said. You can go to the next slide, please. That's just the outline of the presentation, looking at the introduction, the status of financial inclusion in Zambia, some of the bottlenecks to digital financial services uptake, moving towards the digital transformation, and then looking at the IDES highlights, which is basically the inclusive digital economy scorecard. So we'll have a snapshot of where we are as a country, and then what we are doing to run with the vision, looking at some of the wins that we have had, the challenges, and obviously the potential future outlook that we anticipate. Next, please. Please, if you do have any questions, feel free to interrupt me as I go through the presentation. So basically, to give a brief background about our financial inclusion agenda, it is really stemming from broader government reforms that were initiated sometime in 2004 to 2009, and also from 2010 to 2015. Basically, this was a program that was called the Financial Sector Development Plan, which had about 5 work streams. One was to ascertain where we were in terms of the financial inclusion rate, and also looking at the reviews and harmonization of laws. This included the Securities Bill, the Banking and Financial Services Bill. It also included the pension scheme bills, as well as the credit reporting bill, among others. And looking at enhanced regulatory frameworks, and potentially for those self-regulatory frameworks for self-regulated organizations. So out of that, we had the Capital Markets Association formed. And then we also had a key emphasis on ascertaining the levels of financial education in our country, as they were perceived to be a crucial element for financial sector development. So out of that, we had the National Strategy on Financial Education for Zambia formulated. And for us as capital markets, it was also a time for us to launch a campaign because generally in Zambia, very few people know about capital markets. So we take a key emphasis to try and deliberately educate the people through the promotion of investor education. Okay, so building on the successes of the FSDP, we recognized the need for a comprehensive strategy to accelerate progress towards an inclusive, stable, and competitive financial sector. So government, alongside the financial sector regulators, did formulate first and foremost the National Financial Sector Development Policy, which was implemented through the National Financial Inclusion Strategy. So our vision there for the policy was to have a robust, world-class financial sector that supports the country's development aspirations. A world-class. So I think we're taking after our brothers, the Super Eagles. Am I right? Yesterday I learned that they're the best in everything. So I think we also want to be the same. And then in terms of the NFIS, the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, we want to have a universal access for a wide range of products, which will reach not only the high-end people, but it will also touch on the lower end, and also how can it help MSMEs progress what they want to attain to do. And our target for that strategy was 80%. We did have another survey undertaken in 2020 through the FinScope survey, which is a 5-year cycle of a survey which we undertake. It's common in Eastern Africa, Eastern and Southern Africa. I don't know if it's done here in Nigeria or other African countries. So as of 2020, our financial inclusion rate was at 69.4%. And if you compare it to 2015, it's basically telling us we improved by 20%. And it was recognized that this push was promulgated through the use of digital financial services, especially mobile money. Next, please. So currently we have about 6.5 million active users out of a population of about 19.6 million. In terms of capital markets, the sector I'm representing, you can see that it's a very low uptake, looking at only 0.6% of the population accessing investment products, which is very low. Some of the reasons that were given during the survey was I do not have money to invest, I do not know how it works, I've never heard of it, do not know the benefits of investing, do not know how the product is offered. So some of these are pointing out to access. So how can we, as regulators and policymakers, enable an environment that will promote access and usage of these very important products? Next, please. Some of the bottlenecks to DFS adoption obviously are low smartphone penetration, limited last mile connectivity, poor digital skills, inadequate platforms to deliver digital financial services, limited support for digital innovations and entrepreneurship. So I think as a country where we are today, we've realized that there is a need to push the digital transformation agenda. And sometime in 2021, when we had a new government in place, there was a new effort to embark on developing a digital transformation strategy. So that is basically our Minister of Technology and Science, who is the champion for that development of that DFS strategy. Next, please. In a snapshot, this is the Inclusive Digital Economy Scorecard for Zambia, which was done in collaboration with the UNCDF and the USAID. So basically, we are saying only 45% of the people are included in the digital economy in Zambia. And then if you want to dig deeper into the target groups along the youths, children and women, for instance, the marginalized sections, that will show you there the 53% there. And then on the other side, it's showing the divide. So basically, the scorecard also encompasses a wide array of aspects, looking at the skill sets in the digital economy, looking at the policy and regulation. Is there active government support? Is there active regulation speaking to the needs of the various digital facets? And then is there enough innovation? And also a critical thing for digitalization is the infrastructure. So those scores are particularly looking at those areas. So in terms of policy and regulation, we are at 58%, and we do realize there is need to do more in that aspect as well. Next, please. So a focus on policy and regulation. Overarching policy provides strong foundation for establishing enabling environment to build an inclusive digital economy. In Zambia, we do have an active promotion by key institutions, and the main driving institutions that are leading this agenda are the Ministry of Technology and Science, the Bank of Zambia, which is our central bank. We have the Smart Zambia Institute as well, which is a public institution. And then just to speak to some of the financial sector developments that we've had that have promulgated the digital economy was, for instance, the watch and learn approach towards mobile money from the early 2000s, which led to the issuance of the e-money Act in 2006. Please go back. We also introduced the regulatory sandboxes in the financial sector, one run by the Bank of Zambia and one by ourselves, the Securities and Exchange Commission. In the ICT sector, we have the Cyber Security and Cyber Crimes Act and also the Data Protection Act. Next, please. So how did we, as SECO, how have we been running with this vision? I'll take you all the way back to 2014, starting with an awareness campaign for the Lusaka Stock Exchange, which was trying to promote alternative products within the capital markets. So driving away from your traditional stocks, such as those that are listed on the main board, and potential usage of digital financial services to access those products. We also had in our strategic plan in 2015 at the time, where we had an objective to have diverse and customer-centric products and services being offered in the markets. In 2018, just following the launch of the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, we did deliberately cascade a key objective under there, which was for us to develop the regulatory sandbox. And also, we had a lot of demand from potential capital markets operators and those interested in deploying such products. But a lagging issue there, a weakness, was there was no regulation to monitor or allow those innovations to be deployed in our markets. So we did partner with the UNCDF and we developed the sandbox guidelines, which were gazetted in 2020. And we started launching this regulatory sandbox in 2021. Next, please. What are some of the wins that we've highlighted since we started implementing the regulatory sandbox? We managed to establish a multi-sectoral sandbox technical committee, which is basically overseeing and supervising the implementation of the sandbox, particularly those participants that are operating within the sandbox. So this comprises of the Bank of Zambia, the Pensions and Insurance Authority, the ICT Authority. It also has other key players such as the markets associations, the fintech hubs, and so on. And then we've had collaborations as well. Our running MOU with the UNCDF, which has been very helpful for us to gain traction in that space. And then we've also had certificates of collaboration signed with fintech innovation labs, as well as university associations, where we regularly run programs such as accelerator programs, just to propel the development of those various digital financial services. Capacity building is also one key aspect. I think yesterday we belabored on this point of how regulators are perceived to always lag behind and not catch up with the rapid technological advancements. And we do realize that ongoing capacity building as regulators is very key for us. So we've had simulation exercises as part of our preparedness before we launched the sandbox, with support from the UNCDF again, the Capital Markets Authority of Kenya, as well as the Bank of Sierra Leone, both of which also sit on our sandbox technical committee. We've had trainings through the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance, the FinTech and Regulatory Innovation, as well as the SupTech Lab Innovation, and then Toronto Center FinTech Supervision and its benefits for financial inclusion and gender equality. Next, thank you. Stakeholder engagements. We've had a wide array of engagements, not only with the sandbox participants, but also with business associations, SMEs, startups, just for them to be able to appreciate the regulations and how they can be able to participate. Through the Innovators Show Day, we invite potential expressions of interest, those that are willing to participate in the sandbox. And then sandbox experience sharing and knowledge sharing also has been a critical element. We've done this with the CMA Kenya again, and one of their participants, Innova. The development of the portal, which would basically make customer experience better, is still in development. And we managed to establish, again, a multi-sectoral working group from some of the pain points that were seen in the sandbox. We managed to establish the multi-sectoral working group for the harmonization and possible collaborative supervision model for fintechs. A pain point that was there was overregulation, first of all, and then also lack of clear regulatory purview where innovations were well suited for under, whether Bank of Zambia or ourselves, the Securities and Exchange Commission. Next. This is basically a digital ecosystem that we're building as a regulator for capital markets, working closely with government, the Bank of Zambia, the PIA, the Capital Markets Association, and then cooperating partners, the UNCDF, the academia, fintech hubs. We're glad to also now put RegTech Africa as a key partner in our ecosystem. Next, please. This is just a snapshot of the innovations that we have in our sandbox. We have 2 crowdfunding platforms, one global securities offering and crypto assets offering, as well as an SME portal run by the Lusaka Securities Exchange, which is trying to make access to credit and investments easier for SMEs. Next. What are some of the challenges? Obviously, there's issues to do with resource constraints. Human capital is always an issue. Rapid technological advancements and the need to always have that capacity to be able to monitor and supervise the various innovations effectively. Lack of clarity on innovation regulatory purview, like I earlier mentioned. And then also the exit modalities. We've had some innovations that are ready to graduate, but we do not have bespoke regulations that will enable them to deploy commercially. So that is also one challenge that we're faced with, which we need to deal with in the short term. What is the future outlook? This is our strategic plan, 2022 to 2026. We want to continue promulgating financial inclusion through various programs that we have in order to increase stakeholders' participation in the capital markets. We want to enhance market investor protection services. And then of key importance is the need for us to enhance business processes and procedures. This is where the usage of RegTech comes in. As of last year, we did a proof of concept with one of the stakeholders I mentioned, who was a participant in the Kenyan regulatory sandbox, who are now deploying commercially. We did a proof of concept for a RegTech application, which will basically tackle various aspects of our supervision processes. So first and foremost, it will enable us to receive reports in an automated way, analyze the reports much more effectively than the current format, and we hope to also extend it to the sandbox and future capital market operators. That was the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much. That's interesting enough. Perhaps it's good to know that RegTech Africa is now part of the ecosystem in terms of that partnership and collaboration. I'm very sure that this is the beginning of greater times to come in. And like I said oftentimes, that this is an African global event. So apparently some of these learned experiences and shared case studies can help us all improve in our own different specialized locations. And it's great that we have you here in the house. I'm very sure that one or two connections have been made as a way to drive this agenda towards ensuring that Africa is obviously going to be its lead with collaboration with Europe, with Americans, and the rest of that. We obviously are living in one global hemisphere, and it's why it's called the global village. So I guess some of those experiences from Zambia, as well as the experiences from SA, from Nigeria, collaboratively, we can pick up some of those high points to see exactly how to improve. And just like the deputy governor of CBN said earlier on, the contest has to be about the people. It has to be about the consumers. And then if we're able to enable them enjoy those benefits, that makes it so much more better for us. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, can we put our hands together for that wonderful keynote presentation? And I wouldn't be so sure if that presentation will be made available. I'm very sure some other people will want to go through afterwards. The organizers, obviously, we have that as a follow-up. Ladies and gentlemen, we